Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, How to Set New Starters Up for Success with Your Induction Process. It's great to have you with us today. I'm Catherine, Head of Content here at Ciphr. I'm joined by Zoe, our People Business Partner. Hi Zoe, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Good, and I'm with Lauren as well, our Digital Design Lead. Hi Lauren, how are you?
I'm also good, thanks.
Excellent, great to have you both with us today. This is an interactive webinar, so do say hi in the public chat and share whereabouts in the UK you are if you fancy doing that, or what your current induction challenges are. It's always nice to get a bit of a chat going in there. We also have an opportunity to send in your questions. There's a specific Q&A panel there, so please send in your questions and we'll deal with those either live on screen or reply to you via text during the broadcast. This webinar is being recorded and the recording will be emailed to you later today, so you can take another look or share with colleagues. Here's today's agenda. I'm going to give you a really quick overview of who we are here at Ciphr and what we do before handing over to Zoe and Lauren, and they'll take you through what our induction program looks like, what you might need to consider when creating your own induction program, how to analyze and refine your current induction process. That's a program that we've been through here ourselves, tips for creating your own e-learning content, and then of course there's the opportunity to put your questions to Zoe and Lauren at the end. So just about us here at Ciphr, we've been working in the people management software space for more than 25 years, serving more than 1 million users and nurturing the talent in our own business throughout the journey. Many of our employees are former HR and payroll professionals themselves, or with current CIPD and CIPP accreditations. So we know the challenges you face and how to work around them. Our range of software includes our central HR solution, as well as recruitment, onboarding, payroll, e-learning, and LMS software. And we also offer outsourced and payroll bureau services. That's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Zoe and Lauren now. Take it away, guys.
Hi, thanks very much for having us. I'm really excited to be here. Lauren and I are both super passionate about induction, so we're really excited to be able to share what we've been working on over the last couple of years here at Ciphr. If you like, should we do some intros, Lauren? Does that sound? Yeah. So I'm Zoe. I joined Ciphr in, I think it was January 2022. I was the Learning and Development Business Partner here and now have just expanded to be a complete people partner. I've got a background in generalist HR, so have often got my mitts on a bit of induction and onboarding and training programs as part of my career history. So yeah, it's been really exciting to apply those here. And then over to you, Lauren.
Yep, so I'm Lauren. I'm the digital design lead within the people team at Ciphr. I joined a little bit after Zoe in 2022, also in May. And I actually didn't come from a design background. I actually came from the NHS and I was supporting people in the community and things like that, but then decided that actually graphic design was my passion, and so decided to pursue that. And here I am a bit over 2 years later.
And we love having you here as well. You bring everything to life. So when I joined Ciphr, we had a really small people team. There was just a couple of us, and inductions were sort of managed at team or individual level. So the kind of, I guess, quality of them or style of them really varied depending on which team you were joining. And we didn't have a full company induction at that stage either. So one of the first things I was tasked with when I began was to design a company induction program. So the original format of that was a 2-day in-person program, which we ran monthly or every second month, depending on our flow of new starters. And we sort of leveraged that to give them face time with our senior managers and almost walk them through the customer journey. So give them a bit of an overview about what we like to work for, our culture, values, everything like that. And then talk through the different departments and their key functions. So they sort of had an idea of who's who and who does what, and then the journey that the customer goes through. So we got really good feedback from that, but it was, I think, Lauren, you actually attended one of those when you first started, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it was really interesting because I'd never done an induction like that before. I'd always sort of been in a situation where they just sort of show me around the office, sort of say, here's a few people that you might need to work with, crack on and get on with it. So it was actually really nice sitting in a room, getting to know new people, getting to know fellow new starters, leaders and things like that as well. So it was actually really lovely to learn about the company that I was about to work for.
Mm-hmm. And how did that differ? So you said it's the first one you've been to. How did that affect your sort of how you felt about the business, or how you settled in compared to previously?
Yeah, I actually felt quite valued. I felt like they were excited to accept me into the business. It felt a bit more kind of inclusive, I guess is the right word. And it was lovely just to learn about the history of Ciphr and things like that, to actually get a good grasp of what I was sort of getting myself into.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel really included and valued, and just I think it really does boost engagement. It's really valuable. So I loved doing it. We got good feedback, but that 2-day in-person event was really resource heavy. It was very admin heavy, so arranging travel and accommodation and catering and booking in the presenters, and then rinsing and repeating every couple of months. And obviously if there were any date changes, you had to do the whole thing again. And obviously, our new starters trying to make time to attend 2 whole days of training was really difficult. So it wasn't really ideal operationally. So Lauren and I worked together. If we just move on to the next slide, please, Catherine. We worked together to sort of analyse across the board what we were doing, not just our company induction program that we've just described, but also the local, job specific or individual inductions. So we reviewed the whole lot as a collective, and we came up with a bit of a hybrid virtual immersion program, which we love a bit of branding, don't we, Lauren? We enjoy a bit of fun with words. So we named it our virtual immersion program, or VIP for short. So the idea again is focused on making new starters really feeling like a VIP and rolling out that red carpet for them, pulling out all the stops to really welcome them to the business and support them as best as we can. So the hybrid VIP program is what we're going to be focusing on most today, but it is important to note that this was designed to complement individual level inductions that the manager would handle, but we did support them by designing e-learning so that they had a really robust idea about what makes or breaks an induction for a new person, what our best practice and top tips are. We also provided them with individual induction plans and consulted with them to pull together a really good job specific plan for them. And we also do months 1, 3 and 5 catch-ups, both with the new starter and the manager, just to touch base, see how they're going, check if there's any development gaps or any snagging points that we can address at the early stages, rather than waiting for the end of their first 6 months, which typically would be the end of a probation period. We don't have those at Ciphr at the moment, but we do make sure to check in the first 6 months very frequently. Top tip for those, if you do just do individual level inductions, one thing I always suggest as a real quick win is, we all know there's lots of people to meet. Sometimes that can get a bit confusing about who's who or why you're meeting them. So a top tip there is to really put some thought into what order you introduce people to. So here at Ciphr, we try and introduce them to key stakeholders in the order of the customer journey, the journey that our customer goes through, because that's how our business is set up to serve our customers. So therefore, it just helps to give context around who they're meeting and help them fit pieces of the puzzle together as quickly as possible. Next slide, please, Catherine. Fab. So this is where we dive into our virtual immersion program in a bit more detail. So just to give you an idea of what this involves. So when our VIP starts, our new starter on day 1, they actually get emailed automatically with details of the e-learning journey they're going to go through and what they can expect from their whole induction program. We actually leverage the power of our LMS to take the admin out of this, and I'm a bit forgetful sometimes, so I don't even have to remember to do it. Our LMS does it for me, so it's my bit of a wingman. So the LMS will actually automatically email the new starter with those details. We've taken it a bit further as well, so we also email the manager with an automatic notification to let them know what we're asking their new starter to do, so that they can support and coach them through that, check completion, and make sure they have the time and space they need to work their way through the e-learning. So the best thing about lifting and shifting a lot of the content from our in-person induction onto online is that it makes it scalable, and it allows the new starter to complete modules when they have time. They can pick them up, put them down, redo them, pause them, whatever they like to do, whatever suits their learning style best, all in their own time, rather than have 2 days of having information thrown at them, which, as I'm sure if anyone's been in that situation, it can get a bit much, and you kind of can't quite absorb much after the first half a day.
There's so much to remember, isn't there?
There's so much content to learn when we start a new business. We do put down the challenge for our new starters. We do ask them to complete it within their first week, which is definitely achievable, with probably just about 30 minutes to an hour each day. Then the next stage is on the next slide. So once during their e-learning journey, we've also enhanced it by allowing our VIP to sign up to extra virtual workshops scattered throughout the year to really immerse and embed other key topics that we touch upon in the e-learning, things that just need a little bit more explanation or a bit more of a personal touch to explore together. So things might be like our ways of working, or our culture and values, or maybe exploring our benefits offering in a bit more detail. There's usually a lot of questions from new starters about that, so we offer them sort of one-to-one opportunities through that. And that's built into their learning journey on our LMS. Then once they've completed their full e-learning journey, the VIP is invited to attend an in-person event. So the one that sort of Lauren was just describing, but we redid this and condensed it into a sort of a half-day event. But it's a really great opportunity to really celebrate them, give them all those lovely opportunities that Lauren described earlier, a chance to meet their other new starters, some valuable face time with senior leaders, and some really immersive exercises as well. So a bit of a celebration all about them, welcoming them to the company and celebrating how far they've come. Then we ask them to do follow-on learning from that within their first month. There's 2 other learning journeys which are part of their full induction, which is around our product and customer training, and also essentials, which is our compliance training, which is never fun. It's always a bit boring, isn't it, doing a bit of health and safety, but it's got to be done.
But we did our best to make it fun.
You did. Lauren has brought her exceptional design skills to really zhuzh it up. We've done a bit of you've spent a bit of time this year revamping that, haven't you?
You say a bit of time, a long time.
You're glad you're finished with that one.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've put a lot of blood, sweat and tears into creating a great e-learning experience, which complements the wider induction program that we've got here. So next, I think we were going to talk a little bit about what some top considerations could be when you're building your induction. Obviously, every induction's different, every business is different. So you've really got to put some consideration into making it work for you and your business in the context that you're operating in.
And it can feel like quite a huge task as well, can't it? When you're at the start of it and you're looking at what you need to do and you're thinking, oh goodness, where do I actually start?
100%, which, as Lauren knows, was absolutely my state. I was trying to figure this out. You were my absolute organizational guru. So we had a mega tracker, didn't we, Lauren?
We did. It was huge.
We had all the topics we wanted to cover, who the subject matter experts were, what stage of the development cycle we were at. So yeah, that tracker, which we still use today.
It was really helpful as well, wasn't it? Because you start, as you're starting to build it and it's sort of snowballing into what you want it to be, you start then thinking, I can't keep all this in my head, and having a tracker like that is just essential.
Absolutely. And it can be motivating as well, isn't it? Because it can feel like it's a huge chore and you're getting nowhere, but actually you can look back and see how far you've come and how much you've got to go. So it does keep you on track and keeps things ticking, which is great.
Absolutely.
So on the next slide, we can sort of delve into some top tips for you. So I think the essential thing is really identifying clear requirements. So what do you and your business want to get out of your induction process? So one of our first considerations was how our new starters are going to access learning. So for example, at Ciphr, we all used to be pretty much office-based, and then COVID hit, as I'm sure this has affected most of you out there as well. We've moved to, well, it was fully remote, and now we've returned to a normal hybrid approach. We are also and because of the hybrid approach, it means people are no longer based near us or near our old office, which was based in Marlow. We've relocated offices to Reading now, but we can hire people all over the country. So for someone, well, we had someone join us from Aberdeen. So for them to travel all the way down to our office for an induction just wasn't a great experience for them. It was a long travel for a half-a-day induction. So we designed you know, again, with the focus on e-learning, because they can access it from home in their own time, and it just takes a lot of that faff away from them. So yeah, really design your program to suit. So yeah, yeah.
And then when it comes to the information that you're putting into your e-learning as well, you need to think about how often you might need to update that. Is the information going to change regularly? Is your business growing? Are there things that might sort of come in last minute that you need to then update your e-learning with? And so thinking about how to present that information, and in our case with the e-learning, what technology to use was absolutely crucial to being able to meet those needs. So we found for us that using Articulate Rise, or Rise for short, was the best option, because it's really easy to use. It's really easy to move things around and update information. Things like storyline can be quite complicated, especially when you kind of go down the storyline rabbit hole. So what we did is we stuck mostly to Rise, using a little bit of storyline to then create interactions that we could then embed into Rise, just for a little bit of fun and gamification, which we can talk a little bit more about later. With Rise, though, there are a few options to keep things fresh and exciting as they're going through that journey. So using lessons and microlens give different looks and feels to the information that you're giving them. So lessons are really good for when it's something that's a little bit longer form, something that someone might have to go back to often, because there's a really great navigation bar, so you can just go through the different sections. Whereas with microlearning, when you're looking at it, it looks a little bit like a PowerPoint presentation. So it's very bite-sized. It's for short sort of chunks of information. It's not anything really long. So you can do some quite fun and engaging learning through microlearn.
And it's quite pacey, isn't it? It sort of keeps
yeah.
moving and getting through. So it's quite good for more drier topics. It gives you just that pace.
I use a lot of microlearn for the compliance training, because it is such a dry topic, and you want to try and breathe a little bit of life into it, use lots of colours and imagery and things like that, just to spice it up a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing to think about as well is how prescriptive is your program. So is it quite a formal program that they all have to do? Or is there a particular deadline? Is there a time when they have to do it? So we actually sort of so you can use automatic notifications, as I touched on earlier. But Lauren, do you want to sort of talk a little bit more about how we design?
Yeah, because it is a self-directed induction program, leveraging the notifications within the LMS was a game changer, really, because it took a lot of the manual process out of constantly checking in whether our new starters have completed the program. It sort of allowed us to do frequent little sort of emails that sort of says, oh, you've not quite done it yet. Do you want to get on that? And we could make it really fun and engaging with the notifications as well, tying it into our tone of voice. We even got to brand them as well and things like that. So using those notifications were amazing. And then also sending them to the managers as well was great, because if the learner wasn't, or the new starter wasn't doing what they needed to do, the manager could then have a conversation with them and say, you really need to get your induction program done. So get on with it, please. So it was really great that we could have that additional touch point. But then on top of all that, we were also doing regular reporting as well, just to track completion and just see how our new starters were going. And if they were struggling, we could then find out what was going on and support where needed.
Absolutely. And to try and take some of the onus off the people team as well, we're working with managers to empower them to track and monitor and chase their own new starters rather than us do it for everyone across the company. It really empowers the manager to manage their team. I think on that as well, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So a lot of you in the chat have sort of mentioned you're doing inductions virtually. So I'm sure you have also wrestled with the struggle of trying to get those inductions booked in at just that sweet spot. So giving that new starter enough space to get started and get set up on systems, but not leaving it too long so that they're left without the knowledge they need. And I think having that blend and taking a lot of the information away from the in-person has allowed us to put the learning at the fingertips of the new starter when they need it. And with it, really quickly, right in line with their start date. Whereas when it was in person, we would have a limited capacity, so they might miss one or we might have to cancel one. So there could be a few months delay before they got to attend, and making it online removes that problem. Obviously, we've still retained the in-person element, but they are more enhancing topics rather than need-to-know topics. So that's really taken that time pressure off. On the next slide, we have got, have a think about how quickly your organisation is growing. So this does link into Lauren's earlier point about how quickly is the information needing to be updated or changed, but also how scalable is your induction program. I know it's really painful. We all go through flurries of tsunamis of recruitment, and then of course that has a knock-on effect of admin and running induction programs. So we're actually an acquisitive business. So we acquire other businesses through merger and acquisitions. So we can have quite sudden, quite last minute influxes of new joiners that we're welcoming to Ciphr. We've had a few of those over the last few years, which has been great for the business. But yeah, having an e-learning means there's no limit to how many people can complete that induction program. There's no capacity issues that we have to face like we did with the in-person inductions, which is really great. It works in line with our ability to grow.
Yeah. And then, as I sort of mentioned earlier about using things like Rise, it was allowing us to make those quick changes that we needed to, as well as things developed in the business. And we're always improving our processes and things like that, so that often has to be updated as well. So yeah, using that technology to sort of allow yourself to do that and really think about that when you're putting your e-learning together is really, really helpful.
And we had one particular frequent pain point, didn't we, with updating our leadership structure. We kept growing and having new departments, so that affected how we designed it, didn't we?
Yeah, it used to be this really complicated storyline interaction where sort of had the organization chart and then you had all the different leaders and their sort of faces flipped round, and we had things like fun facts and all sorts.
Really cool.
It was great, but when I was trying to update it, it was just an absolute nightmare, sort of moving everything around, making sure it was all aligned correctly. It was such a headache. So every time we had a new sort of person that needed to go on that org chart, I was like, no. So it was a bit of a stress point. So sort of looking at that and just thinking, okay, how can I simplify this process? How can I make this still engaging whilst not an absolute pain in the bum to actually update? Was really, really important.
Yeah, so we worked smarter rather than harder, didn't we? And just changed the technology and format that we were using to make one that was much easier and quicker to update. So go us.
Got there in the end, eh?
Yeah, we got there in the end after 1,000 updates. Another sort of thing to really think about if you're going to embark on a big redesign of your induction program is just have a wee think in the back of your mind, what is the level of stakeholder and subject matter expert engagement? So as I mentioned at the beginning, we had a very small people department. We had no business induction program. So the business wasn't used to developing learning content or contributing as subject matter experts to, I guess, holistic learning materials. So there was quite a learning curve of getting those stakeholders engaged and working with us in a pacey fashion, because they just couldn't see what the end result was going to look like. We hadn't had it before. So some ways we sort of got them on board was actually almost creating a dummy version, or once we had one under our belt, we could showcase, hey, this is how we can showcase your department to the business. This is what people can learn about you. And once they got that, they started to get a bit more of an appetite for, oh yeah, I want to share how good my team is. I want to tell everyone about what we're doing. And that really helped speed it up. Now 2 years down the track, they are jumping over themselves to try and get some FaceTime with us and showcase their skills. So this review was a lot faster than the original setup. But do consider that when you're thinking about timelines for your project that you're going to work on, and how you can sort of report on there, or can you build it into manager or stakeholder KPIs that they're contributing to company-wide induction programs. But yeah, what did we, I'm trying to remember, what would we do here? We set project timelines in line with sort of how engaged the stakeholder was, or how available the stakeholder was. We use data also to try and get buy-in from the stakeholders. So around, the impact of induction programs, the effect it has on turnover, particularly those with less than 12 months service. So that was something we were trying to improve at Ciphr at the time. So we really used that as a sort of a carrot and a stick. And yeah, showed them examples of what good looks like.
I felt like the examples were really crucial actually on getting their sort of buy-in, because we'd done an iteration, hadn't we, of the VIP journey, where we maybe didn't get as much engagement, did we, sort of when we were putting that initially together. But then when we were revamping it and improving it, showing examples to sort of key stakeholders, they would thought, oh, okay, so this is what it could look like, this is sort of the value of it. And yeah, I felt like showing examples really did help make the process a lot smoother.
Yeah, and actually on that point, showcasing feedback as well. So once we had a few people who'd completed it, they were raving about it. They were like, wow, this is like one of the best inductions we've ever had. So, or, I'm a person who's returned from mat leave, and, it really supported me, and it's made me feel really engaged. It made me feel like a VIP. And when we're sharing that with stakeholders, they can see the real magic of it. So it does bring it to life.
Yeah. And then we also looked at what the culture around learning was like in the business. So have a little think about that. Are the people in your business already completing e-learning? Is it ingrained in the DNA of the business to already be doing that sort of thing? Or is it completely new and fresh? And in our case, it definitely was new. And it sometimes can be quite difficult to encourage people to actually do e-learning. So we had to try and make it exciting. We had to try and make it worthwhile for them to actually do. And to do that, we use the LMS gamification features. So using things like the leaderboard in there. So when people completed learning, it gave them points, which then puts them into the leaderboard, and then they could look at them compared to their team, which encouraged a bit of friendly competition. And we ramped that up a little bit by putting on double points for certain pieces of information, e-learning that we really wanted them to do. We also use things like the badges in the system as well. So when they completed, for example, the VIP journey, they got a badge. If they did the one with all the compliance training, they got a badge. So it's just like a nice little stamp of approval. And we also use the badge system for if we wanted the learners to complete something by a specific deadline. We did like a limited edition badge, so that only if they actually complete the learning that we want them to by a specific time, they will get that badge. And if they don't, then they miss out. So doing little things, sort of engaging in that sort of FOMO, I think really helped. We also, when we were launching the induction program, we did a little bit of a Willy Wonka, and we added some golden tickets to specific pieces of e-learning, and told people, you have to complete as much e-learning as possible to potentially get these golden tickets. And if you got a golden ticket, it entered you into a prize draw, which we were then able to actually link with the benefits we have at Ciphr. So all of that was just a really great way to engage people in the business, to actually get them to log into the LMS, have a look at it, see what was going on, and actually try some of the e-learning, and actually just have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, those golden tickets definitely got people exploring, didn't they, and discovering content that they wouldn't have otherwise come across. So we've got a very healthy sense of competition, fun competition at Ciphr. So it really went down well. That approach matched our organisation fantastically. We've got a couple of questions on here. So I'll just answer the first one, or attempt to. Here we go. So Debbie asks, what process did we use to get our new starters to sign mandatory policies, for example, health and safety? Do we use e-forms or rely on signed paper copies? So we've actually got a two-pronged approach to this at Ciphr. So we use our Ciphr HR to get people to read and click that they've accepted and signed policies. So for example, health and safety, confidentiality policies, social media policies, etc. We use all those sorts of standard policies that most businesses have. And we also have that essentials compliance training that Lauren has been working really hard on as well. So that just doubly protects us and allows us to demonstrate that our new starters have a really robust understanding of compliance, mandatory sort of learning as well. So a bit of both, HR system and our LMS system.
We also embedded a lot of sort of text in the compliance training as well that says, make sure you've done this. So it would be, make sure you've looked at the anti-money laundering policy, for example, and signed it. So just those little reminders as well for people to go and do what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more question. This one is from Emma. So did you use Ciphr's onboarding module within the process? And if so, how did you blend the two? Yes, we did, Emma. And thank you for reminding me. I should have mentioned that at the start. Oh my goodness, our poor onboarding module. We definitely did. So we used our onboarding module before the first day. So that was a really fantastic, I guess, bridge really from when we've offered and accepted a contract, and once a new starter has signed their contract, they will be added onto our onboarding portal. So that will give them almost some holding information to help engage them with the business before even day one. So give them a flavour of who we are, what's it like to work here, some pictures of past company events, some profiles of existing staff, how they've found their career with Ciphr, give them some faces of our senior executive team, and a bit of a vision about what they might enjoy here. So some, high level information about the benefits they can look forward to enjoying from day one. So that kind of intermediary information. It's difficult to sort of pitch that, right? Because you don't want to give them too much. They're not on our payroll yet. We don't want them working on non-work time, but it helps them get engaged, stay engaged with us, particularly if they're having a long notice period, like 3 months or so. That does really help. So yes, absolutely, an onboarding portal is fantastic before day one. Here we go. One more question from Nick. So he's found leaderboards to be a double-edged sword. It can be really demotivating if you're in the bottom half. That's fair enough. One way to avoid it he suggests issuing only the top 3 as a bit of a celebration, and try and get your name in the top 3 rather than name and shame in an order. That's a really good tip. I love that. And yeah, our leaderboards are really, Can you configure them like that, Lauren, I think? Or you could always do them a different way, couldn't you? And just...
Yeah, there's lots of different settings and stuff. I mean, we didn't do that, but what we did do is it was very much within the smaller teams. It wasn't like a wider business thing. So I guess it felt a little bit less like you're competing against the whole business, but maybe competing in a smaller team. Mm-hmm. I think also we just generally have quite healthy competition in the business. So it never really, I guess, came up.
Yeah, absolutely. And a way to avoid demotivation, I guess, it depends how you approach what your culture towards learning is like. So we were aware that our culture, we hadn't had this before, so people weren't used to it. So we weren't beating people over the head with a stick. We were just trying to make it fun and engaging and inviting people to participate rather than forcing or naming and shaming at that stage. That came with our essentials when we did have to get people doing. And that, I think, how we avoided demotivation, which was probably chasing them or encouraging them behind the scenes more rather than publicly. So delegating that down to their manager to have conversations in one-to-ones, off the record kind of chats, and also touching base to see how we can support them. But yeah, I think it depends on the tone and how you present that information. Yeah, we always try to invite rather than force.
Because say with the notifications that we were sending out as well, they were always really nice and friendly. So it wasn't like you've not done your e-learning. It was a lot more, hey, we hope everything's okay. Don't forget you've got this e-learning to do. And sort of who to reach out to if you're struggling. So it definitely didn't have that name and shame feel to it.
Yeah, but definitely I think direct managers are a real big piece in that puzzle, setting the culture and the tone. So I think the next we were going to dive in and give you some sneaky peeks of some of Lauren's amazing design work and talk to you about some detail.
You're building me up, sorry.
You never build you up enough, Lauren.
So when building our induction program, we obviously really needed to think about the learners and meeting their needs. And when we designed all of the e-learning, we did all of that in mind. So obviously we are talking a lot about e-learning, but I guess if you are doing more in-person stuff, then this could apply to, say, presentations in some cases that you might want to be showing people. But initially, the very first thing is make sure that your content is accessible. Let's face it, if the people can't access the content, then they're not going to be able to get the full benefit. So there's really simple considerations that you can make to ensure that they can actually access your content. So for example, using readable fonts. Using fonts such as serif or sans serif fonts are really great because they're very clear, easy to read. When you're sort of doing something which is more script, that can be quite difficult. So try and use really clear fonts in your presentations or in your e-learning. When including videos, make sure that you have captions, or you can also include transcripts as well. So just to make sure that if people struggle with their hearing, that they can actually access the content still. And make sure the learner has access to video controls as well. Don't forget the importance of that. Being able to speed up videos can help some people, being able to go back if the information hasn't quite processed yet, or let's face it, we all get distracted sometimes and they might just need to go back and rewatch it. There's also, in terms of e-learning, there's mobility considerations that you might need to make. So things like drag and drop interactions can actually be quite difficult. If someone struggles to hold the button down on the mouse when they're moving, it can be an accessibility issue. So you could consider using things like toggling, so toggling something on and off instead. And ultimately, which I feel is probably the most important thing, is feedback. It is absolutely your best friend when you're trying to make things accessible. Always listen to what people are telling you, work with them as well to make sure that you can make content that is accessible for everybody. Next slide, please. Also think about different learning styles as well. Everyone learns differently. Some people do prefer videos, some people prefer to read, some people like a bit of both. And in a way, I think mixing it up and trying a few different things is really great to keep your e-learning interesting and engaging all the way through. So using videos and animations are really great because they can bring your information to life. When you might want to include additional information, so add in documents or links through buttons can be really great too. And then also you can make interactive learning checks as well. So in Rise, you can do knowledge checks, but they can look a little bit boring. So if you are feeling a little bit more confident and want to give Storyline a go, that's a really great way to make engaging and interactive knowledge checks. Next slide, please. Also think about making your e-learning relatable, relate it back to the way that your organization works. So by doing that, you're showing the relevance in what you're actually trying to tell them. So in our cases, we talk about specific issues with, that's pertinent to us. We highlight people like our first aiders or our mental health first aiders. We explain where the fire assembly point is. There's lots of different little things that we inject into the e-learning to make sure that it's always coming back to how we work as a business. Next slide, please. No one wants to go through death by e-learning. I'm sure we've all been there at one point in our careers. So we like to try and keep all of our e-learning nice and brief, but really impactful. So really think about, what does your new starter actually need to know? As a little tip, using the microlearn functionality within Rise is really great for that. The one that's on the screen at the moment is actually the lesson version, but yeah, if you use microlearn, it's really great for that bite-sized content, and it's really good to for the shorter and impactful side of things. Next slide, please. And then finally, make it fun and engaging. Get creative using fun, informal, and engaging language, using interesting imagery, switching up the information that you'll be presenting to people and using different formats. All of that goes a really long way to making e-learning feel like it's not a chore. One really great example of this is what you can see on the screen at the moment, which was one when we were talking about the love story of when we are working with our customers and the journey that they go through. And Zoe came to me, she had this really great written content, and I thought, wow, this is really great, this is really fun. And I was just hit with an inspiration about turning it into an actual storybook, like what you see at beginnings of certain sort of like Disney films and things like that, where you see the fairy tale book open at the beginning. So I decided to create that within Rise. So I created the imagery, as you can see on the screen, of like the front of the book with different pages with all the content, and then just popped it into a carousel so that people can then flip through each of the page of the storybook. By combining the really fun and engaging wording with fun and engaging imagery, I felt like the combination of the two really brought it all to life in a way that if you just had one or the other, it probably wouldn't have done. Next slide, please. And you're back in the room, Zoe. Or is she? Okay, well, so we had to think about the different groups of people that would be accessing the induction. So we then had to think about all the additional bits and bobs that we also wanted to do. And Zoe's back in the room because she's more knowledgeable on this than me.
Lauren. I could hear you, but I couldn't see you. I lost my screen for a second there. Technical difficulties. I'm back in the room. But yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking us through some of those specific points about your e-learning. And it was great to see some of the images of the amazing content that you've designed as well. It's definitely brought it to light. But yeah, I think we've put so much work into building this fantastic induction program for all new starters. We are now kind of thinking about taking it to the next level. So how can we also cater for specific groups of people who have additional learning needs or need a bolt-on or further learning? So particularly our people managers, we really, everyone knows there's specific learning that they'll need to be upskilled on, how to manage their people. How do we manage people here at Ciphr? What are the activities that they need to complete, and how are they going to do that? So we're currently working on a bolt-on e-learning journey. So they would go through the same VIP process as all new starters, and then they'd have additional modules to complete to support them in their role as people manager. We've also got Product Pro Plus, which is hard to say, doesn't it? We need to rename that. It's almost advanced product training. So that's more specialized for what different roles or different level of knowledge that different roles would need to have about our product. So for example, technical people obviously need to know our product inside out from the back end as well as the front end. Whereas our customer success managers or account managers might need to know our product more from an external facing commercial perspective. So how are our customers using it? How do different industries use it? So that's how we bring our product knowledge to life. So we are working on expanding our library on that. We've got knowledge all around the business already, but it's just about centralizing that and working smarter. And also looking to now develop job-specific e-learning journeys. So again, job families. So for example, if you were joining in a sales type of role, what are some of the behavioural skills you might need to develop or learn? What are our expectations, and taking them through that, from building relationships with customers, overcoming conflict or handling negotiations, those sorts of skills that would be specific for that type of job. So really excited to see what we're going to be developing in the next year. We're always busy, aren't we, Lauren? We never run out of learning to develop.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. So next we were going to talk a little bit about how to analyse. So we've talked a lot about the process we went through, but how can you analyse and refine your current induction process? So assuming that you've currently got one, we've talked about how you develop one, but how do you sort of do a quality check? So yeah, we relied a lot on feedback, didn't we, Lauren?
We absolutely did. So we actually tracked all of that, didn't we? All of the feedback that we were getting. We also put together things like what we called a snag tracker, to basically just sort of look at all the little things, all the little snags that we were coming into with our induction program, so that we could then fix them essentially, and we could then assign them to the people that needed to do the fixing as well. But we thought we'd just show you a few little bits of feedback that we did get, and just how we dealt with it essentially. So with the first bit of feedback, this person had ADHD. They were struggling because in the video it was embedded into Rise, but in such a way that you couldn't actually do anything with the video controls. So they actually find that it's easier for them to speed up those controls. So I redid it and I put it in Rise in a different way, and actually gave them the controls that they needed. So that was a really useful piece of feedback. In the next one, this was when I was quite new to using the microlearn side of Rise, because it is quite a new thing in the world of Rise. What I didn't realize is that if you put too much information onto one of the screens, you then have to scroll down. And in the way that they work better when you don't have to do that. So that feedback actually highlighted that for me, which was brilliant. So I was able to make it a bit more bite-sized, break content up a little bit, which actually served the content much better anyway. With the next bit of feedback, we had this really fancy way of talking about the history of Ciphr and all through the years, and we were also relating it to the different eras and what was going on in the world at that time. It was very complicated. We had sort of embedded YouTube videos and all sorts, and we just kept coming into little problems, and it was a bit of a pain point. And also, as Zoe mentioned earlier, we get new businesses that join us and things like that. So being able to add that new information in was actually quite a big task. So from that feedback, also just from us thinking about the process, we completely simplified it. We took out the YouTube videos, we made it much better, and it looks really great. And we used microlearn for that as well, and it's quite cool how that one turned out. And then finally, whilst getting constructive criticism is great, and we definitely welcome all of it, it's also good to know when you're doing things right, so you know what things aren't broken, so you don't try and fix them. So when we do get really lovely feedback like this, sort of saying that they like how it was bite-sized, they loved how it looked and the feel of it, we knew, okay, we need to keep doing that. So also listen to when you're doing things well. Next slide.
Absolutely. And I think we had a question here as well from Hannah. So probably one for you actually, Lauren. So she says she's not familiar with Rise. Does inserting the text into graphics have any impact on screen reader accessibility?
Yeah, so obviously when you do put in an image, it won't give you what the text is. So when you've got things like a screen reader, you do need to consider that. You could say include a transcript of what is on there. You could also, there's alt text as well that you can assign to images in Rise. So when there is a screen reader, you can explain what's on the image. In the case of the storybook, we would need to add in a transcript for that because it is a lot of content. But there's absolutely considerations that you can make for that.
Absolutely, thank you. But yeah, 100% with the feedback, we sought feedback formally through at the end of every in-person induction program. We'd send out a feedback survey to say how did they find their entire journey as a whole. Was it too slow? Was it too long? Was it too intense? Did it give them the right information at the right time? And then how did they find every single element? So for example, the in-person versus the e-learning. So definitely look at ways to capture information. Also on your LMS, people can rate individual pieces of e-learning. So out of 5 stars, they can give it a rating and review. So we do monitor that as well. So it's another great piece of functionality you can capitalize on.
They can leave comments there too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So this one was great. This would be great for someone in this type role or that kind of thing. So there's some top tips on the screen that hopefully you've had a chance to read through. Just some really helpful questions that you could ask yourself if you are thinking about reviewing your induction program. So next we are going to talk about just some top tips for you. So everyone loves a top tip. So how these are mainly from Lauren because she's our e-learning content designer guru. So yeah, let's dive in. What are some of our top tips? What have we got?
So this is you first because this is
me
first. Yeah, you're the guru on this one.
Content design, right? So absolutely reach out and get your subject matter experts involved. I'm sure when you start to map out all the hundreds of things your new starters need to learn, it can feel very daunting. You think, oh my goodness, it's going to take me years to develop all that content. So make networks, reach out and leverage your subject matter experts, empower them to give you the content. My top tip there would be absolutely to give them some direction around the flow and format and structure of the content to try and get a really good quality result first time rather than going back and forth to them, and definitely work with them closely if it's their first time providing content. As we mentioned earlier, get them really excited and get them bought in by showing them some really cool examples of how fun it can be, and also use stats and feedback to show them the real impact that it can have. Absolutely. So I think,
yeah. So I've already spoken about accessibility. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but again, I really cannot emphasize how much getting feedback and listening to that and working with the people that are giving you the feedback is so crucial. So just making sure that people can consume the learning that you're giving them, whether that's through sort of readable fonts, whether it's like making sure that the colors aren't clashing so that you can actually read what they're giving you, using things like captions and transcripts in your videos, and then thinking about the interactions that you're giving them and just making sure that you've got sort of, accessibility in mind when you're doing that. In the video that you can see on the screen at the moment, you can see what this was actually linked to the ADHD feedback that I mentioned earlier. It started off, you had no video controls, you had no captions. You can see that now. There's absolutely nothing going on, so you couldn't do anything. The only thing you could do was mute it, and I think you could click on it to pause it, so you couldn't do anything more than that. So I added in the captions. As you can see, I added in, made sure there was video controls and things like that, just to make sure it was nice and accessible. Next, please. Make it interactive, make it fun. When you sort of say to someone, oh, can you complete this e-learning, you're more than often going to get a groan in response. But if you make it fun and engaging, hopefully they'll keep coming back for more. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that, using videos and animations to bring that information to life is great. As the video cycles through, you'll see an animation that I created, which I used in a program called Beyond, which does a lot of the hard work for you. It has its own animation style, and there's a few different ones that you can choose from. And it's a great tool for people that aren't confident in animation. For people that are a little bit more maybe into the design side of things, you can import some of your own imagery into it as well. So you can see on the picture there, there's like a background that's sort of around the animation in the middle, and that was all created by me, and then I imported it in. So you can bring some of that look and feel from your organization into Beyond videos. So that's a really great tool to use. Using knowledge checks, but actually making them fun, using fun imagery, fun wording, maybe even gamifying them a little bit. All these little things just make it a little bit more engaging and interesting to look at. Next, please. And then finally, personalize it. Use the branding from your organization, use your tone of voice, really bring your company into the e-learning. I know in some cases people buy off-the-shelf products, and that's totally fine. There's little things that you can do to make that a little bit more personal, whether that's just changing some of the text so that it actually relates back to your organization in different ways. Like I mentioned earlier, how we included things like our mental health first aiders and fire assembly points and all that sort of stuff. Linking it back in little ways like that instead of keeping it generic just makes it a little bit more of a personal touch. If you get the off-the-shelf product in Rise, you can also just pop into the theme section of Rise, and you can do things like changing the colors, and then it will just do a lot of it for you. And again, that just brings it a little bit more in line with your company. That's it.
I'm just having read through some of the comments here that people have been chatting about. They've been sharing some really great examples of how they do inductions at their businesses. I saw a few comments about, some of them in the charity sector or very small businesses that don't necessarily have the budget for an amazing LMS that we offer and we really enjoy using. But it's okay if you don't. You can still almost mimic what we have been doing without an LMS. So you could still potentially do a hybrid approach by maybe rather than having e-learning, you could just save documents in a central place that people could pick up and read in their own way, and you can blend that with some virtual in-person sessions. So for example, maybe talking through benefits offerings, you could do that as virtual Teams meetings, as well as an in-person element. And then obviously having a really robust induction plan is a must. They take a bit of time to work your way through, and managers definitely need a lot of support to develop a robust induction process. But hopefully once you've done it once, you can kind of do a lift and shift next time you hire and fill that role with a bit of a tweak here and there. So there's definitely ways to do it just as effectively without an LMS.
I think what you said about sort of making a document, which essentially is kind of replacing the e-learning side of things, you can do that in, say, PowerPoint, because then you can really get creative with it and really inject some fun and personality into what you're building.
100%, and definitely in your in-person events, challenge yourself to avoid the death by PowerPoint. So think about how you're including social elements, how, we even thought of a speed dating with senior management teams. So you all have to shuffle around, it gets people moving, and you get a couple of minutes with each SMT. That's really fun. So just get creative and think of ideas like that. Also, interactive games. So when we were doing it in person, we had cards with the customer journey, and you had two teams that were competing against each other, and they had to try and map out what they thought the customer journey looked like and what team fitted in at each stage. And that was a really great way to engage people rather than just doing a slide presentation on what the customer journey looks like. So really challenge yourself, get some L&D advice, or just Google it. There's so much available online now.
I remember when we did the Ciphr history stuff, we all had to think about the different years and the key things that happened in those years in the real world and things like that. And I remember you had a playlist and everything. That was
a little bit of music. What happened in '84? What was the top song that year? So we were playing that. And what were the top news stories? What movies came out? So it was a real blast from the past. You can get really creative with how you present information.
That was great fun.
Someone else made a great comment around cohorts. So grouping new starters together. I think someone mentioned they have an academy system. So for 1 month, all new starters work together and learn with each other. It's a great way for them to support each other and share learning. But yeah, absolutely, cohorts is something we've thought about as well. So grouping quarterly cohorts of new starters, and it's almost like a buddy system, and they can take that on as really deep relationships that they maintain on into their career with us. Also, don't forget about social learning options. So we used to have something called Knowledge Hub. So we had Teams channels as well, where anyone in the business could jump on and ask questions and learn in the moment as part of their job. So definitely thinking creatively around all the different channels you can use if you don't have an LMS. Yeah, I think a couple of other questions. Let's see what's on the Q&A before we wrap up. Right, so what sort of questions would you include in your feedback survey? So I think it would be things like, how did you find the pace of the in-person event? How did you find the pace or workload of the e-learning content? Did you find it easy to access? Gosh, there's lots of questions. You could probably Google it. I think there'd be some, template or example induction questions.
Make sure there's sort of free text boxes in there as well, just in case there's anything that you don't sort of capture that they want to tell you as well.
Yeah, what was missing that we could include, or what was great.
What we've done well, what could we do better.
100%, definitely a mix of qualitative and quantitative. We also include our CSAT score question. So would you recommend Ciphr as a place to work? So that's a really good one for us to easily measure a KPI of how effective our training is. And I think we've got time, hopefully, for one more last question, which is, what are your suggestions for inducting non-IT users and manual workers? Oh, that's a really good question. I haven't got much experience of that because I've worked mainly in the corporate sector. I guess that would rely on more of maybe paper-based or in-person system, really. So yeah, thinking harder and smarter about resources and timing and cadences of those. Yeah, definitely a challenging one. I'm not sure if anyone else in the group could chuck in a chat if they've got experience of that, of how they managed it. But yeah, great question, Ryan. Cool. That's about us. I think that's time.
Excuse me. Yeah, that is about all we've got time for today. Thank you, Lauren and Zoe, and for adminning that Q&A. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope you found it positive. If you want to stay up to date with what we're doing in terms of events here at Ciphr, you can follow us on LinkedIn. There's a little button on the screen which will take you to our LinkedIn account. Don't forget, this has all been recorded, and we'll send that to you by email later today so you can catch up. Again, if there's anything you missed, or if you want to share with a colleague and brainstorm some ideas, you can do that. If you want to learn more about any of our solutions, you can use the exit form at the end of the broadcast to do that. We've shown you everything we've shown you today has been within our own LMS, so that's a tool that can deliver the types of training that we've talked about today. We also offer off-the-shelf e-learning, which you can plug into that LMS, which we didn't cover today, but our experts would be happy to show you at any time. You can also use that survey just to give us a little bit of feedback about how we did today, so we can improve for next time. Thank you, Lauren and Zoe. I really appreciate all of that expertise. Like, you've put an enormous amount of work into our induction process and program, and it absolutely pays off for us in terms of business. And as a manager, it makes my life easier knowing that so many of the fundamentals are taken care of, and I can focus on like the task-based stuff that I need to help my new starters get to grips with. So before my voice gives out completely, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us, and have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.